haircuts. I don't know.
And we're live. Hey, Jeff McKinnon.
Hey.
So I listened to my episodes on One Bourbon, One Shard, One Beer.
Yeah, they were really good.
And you said you liked the second one better, but that's probably the first one we recorded. You like the Kern DJ, the Kern host one?
No, it was the one that that Stub hosted, where you were a little tipsy to get going.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was great. I thought that gosh, I should probably save it for the show. I have a little bit of a critique about it, but
because they kept saying "fuck you, Solomon."
no, that did happen once, but that was pretty fucked up. It came out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, fuck you, and I'm like, what? What did I do? But no, I have a little, you were going through like decades of music, and I felt like, there was a little bit of a mischaracterization of a decade or two in there that I think you need to be set straight. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We'll set the Stub and Kern straight, or is it me that you want to set straight?
No, all three of you collectively like missed some very important stuff. That's all.
All right, you guys set?
I'm ready.
Give me 1 second.
Don't go take a shit now.
Oh God.
You had to turn on his backlight. You look so much better now.
My the lamp closest to me died today. Not the lamp, the bulb in it died. It was one of those like the 3 wattages.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the wattages died a long time ago. So it's just an every other click. But then like today I hit it and just everything fried. So
okay, now are you ready?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. What?
This is Jeff Ehrman, Paradox Beer Company. You're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 259 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing Christmas ale for Vikings, Tap Dat Can, and Jeff Solomon has some thoughts on bourbon, Chardonnay, and beer. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking. Happy Hanukkah, Jeff Solomon. Hello? Is anybody there?
Maybe unmute yourself, Solomon.
Fuck. See, you guys didn't even hear all the... I was like singing along. I was feeling the flow. You guys are the worst. Yeah, I was reminiscing with my aunt and uncle about how remember back in the day you'd look at like a Goy calendar and like Hanukkah would be off by a day because they didn't understand that the day started the night before, and so you'd look at Hanukkah on the calendar and you go, okay, the night before is when Hanukkah actually starts. Well, they kind of caught up over the last couple of years, but I didn't catch up on the fact that they caught up. So I was off by a day on Hanukkah last year for like 5 days in. bullshit, man. Hey, man, none of you stepped in and said, I think it's the wrong day, Jeff. None of you did that. Fuck you guys.
You'd expect us Goyim to be able to figure that shit out.
These fucking Gentiles over here. What do you know?
Did you have to pick up a German Hanukkah beer calendar to?
Yeah. Well, according to the German Hanukkah beer calendar, every night is the same amount of candles because it's fucking everything's the same. That's the thing.
So
holy shit! My computer screen almost got covered with the Russian Imperial Stout.
Once I don't understand why we would change the number of candles. Consistency matters here.
So, my podcast, Drinking Friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 259 of the only two-time award-winning topical. I don't know what we talk about anymore.
We talk about topics.
we talk about topics. There's usually some German beer in there. There might be some wine. There's a lot of Russian Imperial Stout lately.
Hot topics.
How did your German lagers taste this week?
I missed a day, so I've got two, and they look exactly the same. One of them's a pale wheat beer, and one of them's a Pilsner. They look the same.
You, Jeff Solomon. I think I'm about 10 days behind opening up that box. If by now you've realized that you're listening to Podcast Gold and want to never miss another episode, visit WeLikeDrinking.com/subscribe to find out how you can get subscribed to this show about, wine and beer and spirits and fun. What we do.
And ginger snap cookies.
And gingers snapping cookies. Cheers.
It's a different kind of episode this week, guys. Are people listening to it after Christmas?
They'll be listening to this, yes, after Christmas.
After Christmas. We're recording, by the way, full transparency, everybody. We're breaking down the fourth wall. We're recording the Monday, the Sunday. I don't even know what day it is. We're recording the Sunday before Christmas, so everything's all weird. We don't even know who won our fantasy football championship, but we'll talk about it later. So if it sounds odd, that's why.
Things are all over the place this week, so we should right the ship. We should get us back to a bit of normalcy with a little bit we like to call. What's in Jeff Solomon's bedroom?
Somebody called 911. Like John just clenched his chest and fell to the floor. We're playing beer, wine, or pop culture reference. This is where I'm going to give our shitty panel a term, and they're gonna have to figure out, is it a beer, a wine, or a pop culture reference? The term this week is McKissick. McKissick. Is McKissick a wine, a beer, or a pop culture reference? Jeff Eccles.
Can you
McKissick?
Can you please spell McKissick for me?
McKissick. McKissick.
McKissick. Okay. There's one of two things that this is. I'm going to say it's a pop culture reference. It sounds like a name. So Jeff Solomon was commenting earlier that his light is burned out in his room, and I'm half thinking he looked at the bulb in the burnout light and it says McKissick on it, that the light bulb in his bedroom that's burnt out is from something called McKissick, but that doesn't sound quite right. So
McKissick bulbs. Okay.
I think that the next level for our fantasy football junkie to go would be to be some kind of football player that maybe went off today for or against him in fantasy football. So I'm going to say that McKissick is a offensive football player in the National Football League. McKissick.
Interesting. McKissick. And John Ruyak, what say you?
I'm pretty sure McKissick is also a pop culture reference. In reference to the Fantasy Football League, I think he's one of the lousy players that I picked that didn't do shit for me on my fantasy football team.
I think it's great that you don't even know who's on your team.
It's been 3 weeks since I looked at my roster.
So this is a running back, and I just want to go back to you know what? Here's a running back, and I will just go to where we go. I'll just start from week 1 and move forward. Here's some numbers for you: 0, 2, 1, 4, 0, 3, 5, 1, 4, 10, 3, 1. Oh, there's more. 1, 1, 0. This is JD McKissick is a running back in John Ruyak's starting lineup, and those numbers were how many carries he got in each of those games this year. He's a running back. JD McKissick.
See, at least he did something for me. I got to win Wine Beer Pop Culture reference this week.
Yeah. He also kept that roster space warm for a while.
Oh my goodness.
People, if you understood how shitty my roster was this year, you'd understand why I was grasping at straws.
I guess
I think it's the other way around. I think it's the other way around.
The straws were grasping at me.
Yeah.
I guess, now that we're this far into the show, we should probably let everybody know who we are and what we're drinking.
Why?
I know why at this point. We have our usual panel members. We have our California Sustainable Wine Growing Ambassador and recovering wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, shalom, everybody.
We have our commercial brewer and snake wrangler, John Ruyak.
Awesome. You know what I got at my White Elephant party this week today at work?
JD McKissick bobblehead doll?
No, I got an Anheuser-Busch seasonal mug.
just as valuable.
And I am your host and certified specialist of wine, Jeff Eccles. We are drinking whatever the hell we want to tonight, so let's find out what that is, Jeff.
Hey, yeah. So as mentioned before, I am so glad that we are almost done with this stupid fucking Costco beer drinker advent calendar from Original Kalea. In one glass, I have Schlaupenbrau Kirster's Original Pills. And in the other one, I have Barenweiss. One is a Pilsner. The other one is a pale wheat ale. And as mentioned, they look exactly the same. I'm gonna just drink them throughout the show, and I'll let you know if I can tell which glass I'm holding. I'm just gonna swirl them around and see what happens.
John Ruyak.
They all taste the same, is what I'm saying.
So We're headed to see my son, daughter-in-law, my grandson tomorrow. So we're cleaning out the fridge. So I'm finishing up this marble imperial stout and the last of the ginger snap cookies in the cookie tin.
All right. Excellent. I am going the advent calendar as well, but I'm going with Aldi from I don't know how many days ago. From France, I have a Viognier that I'm polishing off right now. And then I think I'm going to move into I got this Shiraz from Australia that I'll be throwing back. Overall, the Aldi wine advent calendar way better than the Costco German beer calendar. Yeah, John.
The Viognier, any petrol notes in there or?
It's very tart. I don't really think I'm getting those petrol notes, but I am getting, I like to call it that the Fruit Loop. I'm trying to think of what the actual that smell is. Jeff, can you think of
Tutti frutti.
No, it's like if you smell a box of Fruit Loops, that's exactly what it smells like.
Well, that's the combination of strawberries and lemons.
But man, it's really tart.
Really, the Viogniers that I have tend to be. I don't remember them being tart more. And I don't when I said the petrol notes, that's true. But I always associate it with something that's a little more viscous.
Yeah, it doesn't have that. Usually you can see it with a Viognier, and you're not seeing it with this one. It's not presenting that kind of oily characteristic. I would put this a lot more towards Sauvignon Blanc or an unoaked Chardonnay.
Huh.
That kind of thing. A lot more like green fruits, tart apples, those kind of things is what I'm getting out of it. Decent finish, and that's the thing about this advent calendar is most everything has been good. There really hasn't been anything that's been great. There's been a few meh, and then there was a White Zin, which I don't have a huge problem with White Zin. It really wasn't what I was looking for, and that one had a leak in it, so it was all sticky when I pulled it. Yeah.
Ew.
So did it taste oxidized and stuff, or?
I mean, I didn't drink it. I really just
put it in with your sautéed vegetables.
No, that one just saw the sink.
By the way, true story. I was having a conversation with a teacher friend of mine who he brews beer occasionally, and he makes wine occasionally as well, and he got some Zinfandel grapes this year, and he's making a rosé with Zinfandel, and I'm like, oh, you're like fermented dry and everything, like it's a dry rosé. He's like, no, it's off dry. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, so you're making a white Zinfandel. There's nothing wrong with it, but I was like, don't call it a rosé. It's a white Zinfandel. Be proud of that, man. Like a craft white Zin, But a sticky like half bottle of Zin is a white Zin's another story.
Yeah, honeysuckle. That was what I was trying to.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, tutti frutti.
Tutti frutti. Yeah. So overall, I would get this one again. The cheese one, there's been some different decent cheeses in the Aldi advent calendar for cheese, but there's also it's like 12 days and they've just repeated themselves.
Oh.
So it's like I've gotten 2 hot and spicy and 2 herbed Goudas and 2 aged cheddars and 2 white cheddars and 2 cheddars and
and 20 lagers. I get it.
So I guess they have a chocolate one and a beer one too. So we'll see what happens next.
I'm sure the chocolate ones, it's like, and this one's 92 cacao, and this one's 91 cacao.
Milk with almonds. Milk. White. Repeat.
Salted caramel.
I've got a question.
Okay.
So, no, this is a serious question. So,
What?
no, it's a serious question about
Okay.
wine.
Hold on. Let me put my serious face on.
So Sharon went to Gruet a week ago, and she meets a coworker of hers there about once a month, and she comes home. She goes, "Surprise! We joined the Gruet Wine Club." I'm like, okay. So today we went there, we celebrated, and we had a little bit of a household ta-da thing that happened today. So we went and celebrated. And but last week she went and she brought home a bottle of their red blend. And Gruet's purchasing a lot of Pinot Noir and Merlot and some other red grapes from Washington and in Oregon of late. And they came up, she brought home this red blend. She really liked it. And she opened up a bottle for us to share. And I didn't dig it. And it's not that it wasn't good, but it had some flavors in it that I didn't care for. And I know we had this conversation regarding Carmenere from Chile. And there was to me, a lot of green bell pepper notes in it. And I was trying to remember and I did some research online, and a lot of French reds will express that particular flavor. I was wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Jeff, you got anything? Or I'm happy to take this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like when I get green notes, it's really like, is this something that is speaking to the region? Like consistently, I'm getting green notes from a certain region. To me, I just think it's just, I notice it and I'm like, yeah, this exists. And sometimes I'm into it and sometimes I'm not. Like if it's out of balance, like that's a problem for me. I don't know if anybody's ever trying to get overly green notes. Sometimes I find that it comes from fruit that was picked just a little bit too soon. But I don't know if for me, it's like I don't necessarily have as much of a stand on green notes unless they're so overwhelming that they're just, making the wine undrinkable. It's more like it is what it is. It's kind of like, freckles on a beautiful lady, I'm neither for nor against if they exist. That's cool. Freckles,
Yeah. So I agree with Jeff. This can a lot of times be the sign of grapes that were picked too early. You're typically going to see this in some of more of your Bordeaux varieties. So if you're looking at Cabernet Franc, especially, will present this. But you can also see it in, Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. And it can, there's also some research that is showing that how you manage the vineyard can play a role in it, and how much of the leafy part of the grapevines you have controlled or exposed to sun can play into this as well. So it can be a management thing in the vineyard. So there's a few things that can lead to it. Like Jeff said, it shouldn't be an overpowering thing unless you're really susceptible or really notice preazines or I think that's what they're called.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was
Yeah,
going to
looked
say
that
that.
up.
I was afraid to be wrong, so I didn't say it.
But and if they're having, I'm assuming they're having the grapes shipped to them. They're not getting the juice shipped to them. They're probably
they're getting full. They're getting full clusters.
So they can't pick those at their perfect ripeness.
Yeah.
They
maybe intentionally pick them a little bit early because they're going to ripen.
They didn't finish that
transit.
but they didn't finish that ripening in the 1.5 day trip from Washington to New Mexico.
Or even if they have though, that trip down, there's going to be a lot of juice when it gets there. Those grapes are going to get smashed a lot. And as they're getting smashed, if they're smashing those grapes that early, there's probably some vegetal notes that are going to be leaking out, especially if it's, a Cabernet Blanc red grape.
Well, if it was whole clusters in transit, you're also talking about directed exposure to stems, which like stems to juice, which is going to increase some green notes, as you might notice if you ever drink one of my Sangioveses. Yeah.
So, but I'll just say this, and my wife loved it, and she was very happy to bring it home, and she wanted to share it with me because she really enjoyed it. For me, it was a little bit too green. But we went there today, and we did a flight of Brut Rosé, the oaked, and one that was on lees for 8 years, which was, golly, was that fun. So much honey notes, and it felt like they had poured honey into the juice. It was just, and they didn't. It was just like, holy crap.
Nice.
And then
Wow.
their Merlot, their still wine that's the best Merlot I've ever had.
Was it juice from Washington State?
It was juice from Washington State. But this red blend was just a little bit too green for me. So
did you try it again today?
Yeah, tried it. It was Alasta, and it was the same.
It was the same.
Yeah, for me. So, some people dig it, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. For me, it wasn't my cup of tea.
It's one of those things. It's like Brett. It's this tiny little bit is amazing, and this much more ruins it for me. Like with those green notes, like in a Cabernet Franc, like if I get a hint of that green pepper kind of thing, I'm like, yeah, all right, let's get into this. But if it's overpowering, like if I don't get any other notes, or if it's like the main component in it, that kind of ruins it for me. So it's a delicate balance.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah. Good call. It's interesting too, and I know we're getting way off topic. We've got a riveting booze news coming up in a little bit. But, I was thinking about how, it's interesting. You'll find yourself in conversations with people like that maybe just tasted an aged wine, like a real aged wine, and they realize that they don't like it. Like the idea of like wine getting better with age. And I'm talking about wines that are meant to age. They taste totally different afterwards. Like imagine like this big, bold Cabernet with just this like bright, rich fruit. And all of a sudden it tastes like leaves, like in the most beautiful, gorgeous sense. It tastes like dried leaves and sun-dried tomatoes. Like it's interesting how there are certain notes that people are told that they should like that they just don't, and that's fine. It's like find what you like. And I say this about like with aged wines, like having these totally different notes. And I've never had an older wine that was overly green. It's more like overly brown, you know, but in a good way. You know, whether it's true to style or not, like I think it's fair to acknowledge, like, hey, this is something that I notice that I'm just not that into, you know?
Yeah.
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 All
Cool.
right.
By the way, I love a good like leafy, sun-dried tomato-y Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah, man.
30 years old.
Well,
Delicious.
there's nothing. Yeah, that I understand, and I get that. This just to me was just like so. It was not what I was expecting at all.
Mhm.
You know, there wasn't Carmenere on the label. I always said, okay, I'm good with that. So anyway,
Yeah.
Good question, John. I hope we give you some good.
no, I appreciate it because it's been a long time since we did that episode, so I wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it also reminds me this one time I was drinking like a wheat beer that tasted exactly like a lager.
I remember this one time at beer camp.
Don't complete that sentence. Who told you?
All right. Well, you know,
I want names.
we should go from a really good discussion to booze news. We discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some pretty silly things. John Ruyak.
Dateline Norway, the year 934. So anyway, so I pulled up this story about a week ago, and I put it into our show notes for the last show, but I think it works a little better here. There was an old-timey Viking tradition about brewing beer around Yule. I think I pronounced that correctly. So if Yule sounds a lot like Yule, like the Yule logs that are common in the northern Germanic and Slavic regions about midsummer celebrations and things of that nature. But way back in the day, the Vikings had a tradition of brewing beer, and both the husband and the wife would bring the best grains out of the farm and make a Christmas beer. And along around 934, King Haakon the Good made it a law as he was trying to spread Christianity into Norway that you had to brew beer for Christmas. And if you didn't do that, there was a fine. So I guess that's kind of cool that the king wanted you to brew beer at Christmas, and that's cool. And a lot of the craft brewers in Norway still do that to this day. They come up with these beers. But I thought it was interesting that there was a fine, and if you didn't pay the fine, there was a bigger, it's kind of like paying your credit card late, right? You got to pay such and such and such and such. Well, if you didn't brew the beer and they found out that you didn't brew the beer, they could take everything you owned and divide all of your assets between the king and the bishop, and they'd kick you out of the fucking country.
Damn.
Wow.
So, there you have it. What do you think, guys? Do you think home brewing Christmas beer should be mandatory?
You know
What do
what
you
this
think,
is?
Echo?
This is the
Or Solomon, what do you think?
you know what this is? This is the logical fallacy of the no true Scotsman, where it's like no true Viking would not have brewed beer during wintertime, so why would you worry about having your assets taken? Like it's kind of like that. Like this is what we do. It's kind of like, you go to Japan, there's no like trash on the ground. People don't litter. and there aren't trash cans anywhere to be found. People just walk around with their trash until they get home, and then they throw it away. And it's like, why isn't there litter? And it's like, why would I drop this on the ground? We're in Japan. And it's the same thing where it's like, I'm a Viking. Why wouldn't I be brewing for Christmas? Like, yeah, that's just how it is. So I wouldn't even look at the king as being like oppressive in that sense. He just wants you to be a good Viking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do the right thing.
I wonder if like a group of the families got together to present the king in the best way possible. If 24 of them got together, like at the beginning of December, and they got a buy, and they and they sent the king, they sent the king one each of their brews, and by the 15th, he was like, "For fuck's sake, every single one of you people brews the same beer." I wonder if that ever happened.
You'd think one of you'd have the sense to put some smoked whale testicles in it or something.
Wow.
I know it's cold here. You're doing a top fermenting. I'm sorry, bottom. You're doing a bottom fermenting yeast. It's cold. I get it. Fucking, I don't know. Maybe try some different grains. Maybe a few adjuncts. There's no right Heinzgebot here.
Bjorn made another lager
with juniper tips in it.
But this time he chiseled ice off of a glacier and he hauled it 300 miles. He stirred it with an ox bone.
I mean, it's pretty cool that they're that devoted to the tradition that they did that. I mean, December had to be a fun month up in Norway, except
sure
bitter cold.
Except for the fact that the sun never comes up.
There's no light. They're all depressed.
And all their beers taste the same.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what the king was trying to do. He was trying to get some variety in his advent calendar. So he forced them all to do it. That maybe somebody would give him a Russian Imperial Stout in the mix.
Are those the Munich malts or the Pilsen malts? I don't know. It's winter. I can't see shit. Does it matter?
Oh, that's funny as shit.
All right. Anything else on that?
Oh no, I think we're good.
Okay. All right.
Tap that can's Eccles.
Let's tap that can. So this comes from Fox News. Headline: Tapping shaken beer cans won't prevent them from exploding. This is Dateline December 12th. So a research team got together. This was a study published by MIT. Researchers at the University of Southern Denmark meticulously experimented with shaken and unshaken beer cans before coming to their conclusion. So they would weigh them and shake them and shake them and weigh them and tap and tap and tap. And they found that tapping the can before you opened it did not make the cans not explode, or fewer times. I don't know. So the thing I found interesting about this is the theory behind it. I've never really thought about the theory behind the tapping. It was just one of the things that you did. But apparently the theory was that when a beer can is shaken, it causes bubbles to form in the liquid. And then when the can is open, the bubbles rush to the top and cause the fizz. Apparently tapping the can is supposed to cause the bubbles to release from the side of the can and rise to the top prior to the can being opened. that literally makes no sense to me. That would be what they would think had happened. But yes, the research proved that tapping the can before you opened a shaken beer did not prohibit the expulsion of foam from the top.
I swear
Mm.
that I remember like before school, my buddy Jeremy and I, different Jeremy, fuck you, Jeremy. My buddy Jeremy and I
Which
would
Jeremy are you?
be,
Which Jeremy are you flipping off?
it's a different Jeremy from the Felton Covered Bridge can go kick rocks, but different Jeremy. Like before school, I remember we were like we were watching Mr. Wizard. Like I'd go to his house, we watch Mr. Wizard, and then we walked to school together. And I remember there was this thing where it's like, you know, he'd have like these little kids and he takes like a Coke can and he shakes the shit out of it and he gives it to this kid. And the kid's like, I'm not going to open it up. And he goes, well, here's the thing. When I shook the can, I released the carbon dioxide from suspension. But if you gently tap the top, it puts the carbon dioxide back into the liquid. And I remember the kid taps it and then he opens it and it was fine. And I swear to you, and I know, look, this is me learning this thing when I'm in second grade. And from that point forward, whenever I would pick up a can, and it's funny, I see some people like tap a can before they open it, but I swear some people have like no technique and they're not thinking about it. I literally, like, when I tap a can, I'm thinking to myself, like, it's not like a ding, ding, ding. It's like boom, boom, boom. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm pushing them back into suspension. And then when I open it, like, I've never had a can explode on me. And I know that this is all what happens is, even like a scientist like me, that shit locks into your brain when you're in like first and second grade, and you never think to question it from that moment. My big question is like, why was Mr. Wizard trying to pitch that bullshit? So John, tell me, where am I going wrong here?
You know, this is funny because we're going to go back to Costa Rica and the trip with the cow.
Oh,
remember the trip with the cow?
No.
How can I forget another riveting story? Riveting.
So
sit back by the fire, kids. John's got a Christmas story for you.
Go get your
it was almost Christmas time. You know what? If you think about it, there's a lot of physical chemistry going on here, and to this day, now I opened two. I did have two of these. I didn't tap the top of either one of these, but if I went to a picnic and I grabbed a beer out of a ice cold cooler, and it was, say, a Coors Banquet beer or something like that, would I tap it a couple of times and think exactly what Solomon was thinking? I'm going to tap it 3. No, I'll tap it a 4th time and open it up and right? Nothing, right?
Right.
When you look in, when you do that, when you pop it open, most beer cans will just for the sake of argument, 99.999% of beer cans are 12 ounces, right?
Right.
If you turn it upside down, do you hear anything?
Good.
Do you hear anything? There's the airspace inside a can is almost non-existent. It's less than a quarter of a fluid ounce. There's nowhere for that CO2 to go, right? And I go back to that fateful trip on the Clampetts car in Costa Rica to go to our first beer festival in Costa Rica with the beer going up and down, and we're driving into canyons.
And the cow looked at you and he's like, "You fuckers don't know
Yeah, well,
where
who
you're
the
going."
fuck are you? And snakes with toads in their mouth and everything else. and and we get to the beer festival and we pop and no problems whatsoever, even though we were bouncing down roads for 3 hours because those kegs were completely full. Once the agitation stops, there's no reason for the CO2 to escape. So if I hold a can and I shake it for God knows how long, if there's no airspace for it to go anywhere, you could open it up almost immediately with no whoosh, right? For the most part. I mean, but if you shake it up and open it up right away, yes, you're giving it a place to go. That with that agitation, once the internal agitation stops, there's nowhere for that carbonic acid to go, so it settles back into solution with no problem.
So are you saying that that if it had been shaking, that really the tapping is more of a time change?
It's it's an urban myth that's settled in, and I do it, even though I know it doesn't do doodly. It doesn't matter. It's just a habit. It's just like up, boop, boop, boop. You know. It's a Coors. It's a Coors. I'm going to tap it. I don't know. It's a fat tire in a can. I'm going to tap it. You just do it.
We should start pushing this as a thing to do with wine bottles with screw tops.
No, I
to make
know
sure
what
that they
we
aren't a
do.
sticky mess.
No. Next week, we each get a can of beer. We shake it up live on air, and we just wait the amount of time that it would have taken to tap, and then we open it right over our computers live on air.
You're a brave man.
In front of our faces. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in.
Sure.
I'll do it with
dress my laptop up like it's going to a Gallagher concert. I know I'm getting old because I dropped a Gallagher reference to one of my buddies the other day, and he goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Fucking Gallagher." He goes, "Huh?" And I go, "He would smash fruit." And he's like, "What?" And he was a comedian. And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like that was funny, smashing fruit. And I'm like, well, not really. And I pull out my phone and I just pull up I just do Sledge-O-Matic, and then sure enough I get fucking Gallagher smashing fruit, and we're looking at this thing laughing because it's totally not funny. He's just smashing fruit. And he had a hat with a little motor, and he held the motor and the hat spun around. That's it. He was fucking Carrot Top with no talent, but he smashed fruit.
All right, so I'm interested from our listeners to know if you tap that can before you open it. Let us know what John's got.
Just want to let Sam Slaughter know that I've got a sweater for his guinea pig.
Oh my god.
Okay. That happened. All right. Oh, this should be interesting. Bum 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 bum.
So I think it is only fair right now for Jeff Eccles to break out his phone and take a look at his matchup and how he is doing right now in the championships with the fucking shark snake Cody. And I just want you to talk me through it, because this is all you, man. It's championship week. It's the end of the day on Sunday. I think the last game is over on Sunday already. But you've got a championship that's going into Monday night. What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm not feeling that great. Jeff, you were talking last week about if you score 150 points, there's a pretty good chance you for win. If you're in the 170s, you're almost guaranteed a chance to win. Right now, our scores, Cody the Shark Snake is beating me 168 points to 151 points. The stats are saying he's got a 73% chance to win. He has M. Boone,
Mike Boone going tomorrow night because neither Dalvin Cook nor that other Alexander Madison, like they're both out. It's the Mike Boone show on Monday night tomorrow night. John, Mike Boone was available a couple of weeks ago. You could have picked him up.
Oh, really? Hey, he might have helped me out.
Yeah,
he might have done better than that McKissick shit.
Mike Boone going from Minnesota, predicted to get 13 points. I have one Aaron Rodgers going, quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, forecast to get 21 points. So right now it's looking like a 172 to 181 loss for yours truly. This was a fun, like you guys can speak to how fantasy games usually go. Usually it's somebody gets off to a big lead early on in a game or something like that. And then it's a matter of, can the other person catch them? And this game today has been back and forth. There's probably been a dozen lead changes throughout the day. There was points where I was a 60% favorite to win. It's been back and forth. And right before right towards the end of all the second games, I actually had a lead for a short term. And then his Philadelphia running back, M. Sanders, who was scheduled or predicted to get 13 points, went off for 25.
That's Miles Sanders. That's the guy that he stole from me in the draft that started the whole shark snake.
I want to try to understand something though. I'm looking at McCaffrey, who got 31 points in a loss. Where Carolina scored 6 points.
Yeah,
but he got 31 fantasy points. How the hell does that happen?
Christian McCaffrey. Do you remember Marshall Faulk?
I do.
Christian McCaffrey is better than Marshall Faulk at everything that Marshall Faulk ever did. That's how that happens. So
he's a pass catching running back.
No. Not just a pass catching running back. He is a legitimate bell cow. Cody, you know what I'm talking about. He's a bell cow, man. The offense runs through him. He got 13 handoffs today. He'll get anywhere from 15 to 20 any given week. And today he had 15 targets in the passing game. Like that's 15 targets with 15 receptions. Yeah, I that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, and that's crazy to get 31 points with no touchdowns.
Yeah. Imagine if he'd have lucked into one. Like, we're talking about the greatest performance of all time. And he has Lamar Jackson, and he started Austin Hooper this week, and it's just nuts. He started Jameis Winston, and it didn't even matter. I will say, Jeff Eccles, you probably should have started Devin Singletary this week.
It was a 1 point difference between the two.
I know.
But it was a lot of fun. Best of luck, Cody. We won't be able to announce it till not this coming Friday,
January 2nd.
Yeah. So folks, you won't know. So I think I'll just claim myself champion until otherwise.
I think that's fair.
I think that's legit. Cody, you're my bitch. The whole league is my bitch until somebody beats me. That's what I'm going to say.
Wow. But I will also say, Jeremy from the Felton Covered Bridge, it looks like you're going to beat me this week. Congratulations. You won the consolation bracket. Congrats, man. It was a meaningless matchup. I didn't care.
you would be spouting like you won everything if you had won that game.
Yeah. And John Ruyak, way to go. 42 whole points in 1 week.
I think John should get an award for starting somebody on IR, somebody out, somebody suspended, all in the same game.
Yeah.
The all felon team.
Until you hear otherwise, folks, I am the 2019 fantasy football champion. It was a great season, everybody. Everybody that doesn't like football, I'm sorry for these segments every week. We always talk about how we don't want to talk about them for more than a couple of minutes, but we just have too much fun with it.
Yeah. Hey, way to go. And I'm with you, Jeff. Congratulations on your second championship, man. Way to go.
No. This would be my first.
Oh, it is your first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dimitri won last year.
Yes.
What the hell happened to him? How the mighty have fallen.
It's either my first year as champion or my second year in second place. One or the other.
There you go. Way to go.
So thank you to everybody that played along with us this year. It was a lot of fun, as it always is. And if you want to get into it next year, pester the living hell out of other Jeff at WeLikeDrinking.com, because otherwise he won't remember next year.
Yeah. What day is it again?
I don't know.
Oh.
Anyway.
You had a rant, didn't you, Solomon? You had a rant ramping up?
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I just had to get somewhere. Okay. I'll edit this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, while we're on the subject of champions, John Ruyak,
Yes.
you went for a second victory on our good friends Kern and Stubbs' One Bourbon, One Shard, or One Beer podcast this past week.
I did.
So, folks, if you haven't got a chance to listen to either of the episodes that John was on, make sure to listen to them. Very different feel than when I was on the One Bourbon, One Shard, or One Beer podcast, or when Jeff Solomon was on the One Bourbon, One Beer, or One Shard podcast. Jeff Solomon, did you have any thoughts on John's showing?
I said this in private, and I will say it for our tens of listeners to hear. I thought that both of John Ruyak's appearances on the One Bourbon, One Shard, and One Beer podcast were fantastic, and I was especially riveted to listening to every single word of this latest episode. I believe it was entitled "Reelin' in the Years," where Stubb was leading you through musical decades and just kind of talking about what were the most popular songs, and it was really kind of a fun walk down these pathways of what we thought a decade was known for, and then what was actually showing up in that decade. Ruyak, I believe, I don't want to give away how it ends, right? But it's an interesting ending. It was definitely a close game. But I did want to point something out. You guys got to the 1990s and then the first decade of the 2000s. And what I heard you saying collectively, you and Kern and Stubb together, about the 90s and the 2000s, you talked about how those decades sucked in terms of like music that people were listening to. Like you were really having a tough time like defining the music of those eras. And I felt like it was a gross mischaracterization of the early 2000s specifically. I'm gonna give Stubb a pass because I know he was just born when the 2000s started.
Oh man!
And I'm gonna give you a pass, John, because you're very old, so you probably weren't listening to anything that was on the radio then. But Kern, somebody who professes to like know and love music. I was really upset how you just totally overlooked that the early 2000s were an amazing time for rock and roll music on the radio. Like, no joke, some of the best rock on the radio since the 1970s. Legitimately. And you guys all fucking passed it up.
I would agree with that. You know, I will admittedly say, and Solomon, you're coming into this. My
relatively sober.
No. It's about raising kids. You know, the mid 1990s is where my kids were coming into about the same age as your kids are now, and everything just kind of goes into this blur. And I used to listen to music. I used to buy music. I used to play music. I used to play my guitar 3 hours a day, up until the point where we had kids and they got older, and then the activities catch up, right? I mean, when they're 4 years old, I can still go into my bedroom and play for a couple hours when they're asleep, you know, with the headphone on, with my headphone amps and stuff like that. But when the activities start, that all goes out the window. I didn't go out and look for snakes. I didn't play hockey. I didn't play my guitar. So those things, you know, so I kind of lose that. But I agree with you that back in the early 90s, there was some killer stuff going on the radio.
No, early 2000s. Fuck the early 90s. I'm talking about the White Stripes, the Black Keys, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the Hot Heat, Franz Ferdinand. It just keeps going. Was there any rock and roll band from the early 2000s that wasn't good? Okay, Nickelback, but that's it. Like, they weren't even like they were a fucking joke, you know? But like, oh God, the fucking AFI was on the radio. We used to go see them at Gilman Street in Berkeley. Like, I'm just saying, y'all fucked up, and it's your fault, Kern. Fuck you, Kern. Oh, fuck you. Can I get a fuck you, Kern? Can I get a fuck you, Kern, from everybody?
Can I get a Christmas fuck you?
And on this, and in this season of giving, I'm giving a big middle finger to the host of the One Bourbon, One Charter, One Beer podcast, who refuse to invite me back on because they're afraid that I will lose one episode and tie one again like I did last time.
I think it's great that I wonder how often Kern meets somebody and they're like, "Oh, you're Kern? Fuck you, Kern." You're like, he's like, "Oh, you listen to my show, huh?" It's like, "No, we listen to like this other show," because everybody just has a huge "fuck you, Kern" ready to go.
You know, I feel like, remember when we rallied the troops to fight back against the oppression of Mike R. Antis? We could do that with Kern too.
If you know,
your teeth are looking awfully stained.
Yeah,
there.
if you know Chris Kern, the next time you see him, out of nowhere with no context, just look at him and please just say, "Fuck you, Kern," and then just go on about your
Oh man,
we're promoting our people to go out and belittle and badger a good friend of ours. It must be.
He's a great guy.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call. Time to clean house and tell Kern to fuck off. So you know what we do here, folks. We're looking for a little bit of help from you with.
It's not his fault he has a punchable face. It takes one to know one. Look at me.
Please, listeners, go subscribe to the One Bourbon or One Shot or One Beer podcast. You won't regret it. Although you will find yourself screaming "fuck you, Kurt" in your car. But back to us, because we're what's most important. John Ruyak,
Yeah.
could you please, for the 259th time, completely fuck up telling our listeners how to follow us on social media?
Oh, I only fucked it up 258 times.
That's true.
So follow us on the social, folks. There's several of them. Twitter, We Like Drinking 1. That's numeral 1. Instagram, We Like Drinking, and our private Facebook group known as the Tavern. That's welikedrinking.com/tavern. It's a cool place.
Absolutely. You can also, if you've done that and you'd like to tell us something about what you think about the show, consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. We like the big fat 5-star reviews, but you can tell us whatever you want. So search up We Like Drinking on the Apple Podcast. We did get another 5-star review.
Ooh, can we hear it?
Noise.
They were too busy to tell us anything, but they did mash the 5-star button. So we do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah, fuck you, Kern. Jeff Solomon. If the listeners have done that, what else can they do to help the show?
Oh, yeah. How about you stream our show directly from our webpage, welikedrinking.com, and make sure to smash the like button on the individual blog posts, right? That's what you want. Oh, so, you love the show. You want to become more a part of the show. Well, why don't you fucking pay for it, you lazy son of a bean pole? So what I think you need to do is just come and fucking visit us at welikedrinking.com/pledge and fucking give us some money.
It's cool that the last 5 minutes of our Christmas episode has turned the show into an exclusive broadcast.
Son of a bean pole. I like where I'm like trying to make up ways to disrespectful and it just sounds weird.
You can also find the show notes to this episode or the links to the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. Well, I'm going to have to go get a bar of soap to wash my mouth out. So
Your mother raised you better.
Yeah, I agreed. So it must be the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
All right, quick disclaimer. We talked about shaking up beer cans,
Mm-hmm.
and there's very little airspace in there,
Very little.
and tapping the lid, just whatever. Don't do this with champagne bottles.
No.
No, just don't do that. There's an airspace there. Lots of pressure builds up. No. There's a projectile involved here. No, just don't do that. Don't point it somewhere else. Make sure it doesn't go towards any people. Once the cork is out and it's breaking lights somewhere else, and then you want to fizz it over into your glass or into your mouth or whatever, feel free to do that. But just be careful out there, folks. Yeah, be careful.
Jeff Solomon.
And to all my Hebrews and Shebrews in the audience, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu malach haolam asher kadishanu b'mitzvotav le'tzivanu le'hadlik their Chanukah lahayim, everybody.
Woo!
Ow!
Awesome.
Light it up!
And with that,
Gibble, hey. Gibble, hey.
and with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast.
Well,
Never drink alone.
Fuck you.
Let me tell you what's wrong with your podcast.
Good night, folks.
Why?